registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities.
Yo. Yo. What up, though? How are we today? All right. Old business first. We officially raised $350, and then They also said that, what up, Maddie? That $470 was raised. What up, Magic? In that same time period. So, you know, combination of advertisement and other people throwing in and random people just, supporting. But all in all, I'm very proud of y'all. I think y'all did great. I look forward to the next one, next fundraiser, what have you. Gonna be a minute though, because I'm still like, that's a lot. That's a lot of gaming and whatnot. But waking up, like I'm awake. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. We are also going to be scheduling a conversation with Josie Rose, aka Josie Rose C, aka an absolute legend, who is involved in some of the upper echelon stuff. All right, Nightbot is still going to be running the Rainbow Passage 7. That's fine. I didn't have a chance to fix it up. I fixed there's a thing called a crankshaft. Hold up. It's a crankshaft position sensor. And it's on a car, right? And I'm not a super car guy, but I'm smart. I got some skills, and because I know a guy. That guy said, "Go talk to this guy," and this guy went there, hooked it up to the thing, said, "This is the thing." Went on his computer, said, "This is the thing that you need." He's like, "I could do it for you, but watch this video here. You can see it's real easy." If you want to take a shot at it, and if not, hit me up on Saturday, and I fixed it. I pulled out the old one and put in the new one. So don't be afraid to give things a shot. You never know. Save you a couple bucks, you learn some shit. Always a good time. So yeah, the Josie Rose C stuff, I will holler at y'all when I have an actual scheduled date. Could be on a regular day, could be on an off day. I try to be flexible for people who, work serious jobs, do serious work. Because they can't be on streamer time and just available whenever you are, kind of thing. I think that's it. There is a lot of shit going on that you will not hear me talk about because it ain't my business. Well, if your schedule is 3 days a week at 5 p.m. Eastern, then yes, I do. I think that's it. I think that's everything. If anybody has anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get into the content. So one of the things that we or that I have talked about, is how the AI stuff is going to has such a potential for disruption of the status quo that it is going to potentially lead to a situation where you have a lot of people and not a lot of work. And as we said, you can only push people so far when they're hungry, or when their children are hungry, right? um and like Gremlo said as much this morning. But this is from 2015, right? This is what's his name from Cartier's. Fear of poor rising up keeps him awake at night. Like they are aware, right? It takes a special kind of rich person, like excessively wealthy person, to be completely unaware of the downside. There are already super poor people, but there's not a critical mass of them, right? It's all about the critical mass. It's about the numbers, and then it just sounds dense. What sounds dense? The fear of the poor rising up. That sounds aware of the situation. Reads like he's concerned about the wrong kind of people are poor. I mean, if you're getting that from the headline, that's not what I'm getting. Right? The multi-billionaire owner of luxury jewelry company Cartier has revealed his greatest fear: robots replacing workers and the poor rising up to bring down the rich. Because they will. Right? Just look at your history. The people's revolutions happen when you have a bunch of people with nothing to do, and that doesn't matter. The poor for someone. Yeah, exactly. But their people were hungry. Yeah. Because if people are occupied, then you can stretch that out, right? A lot of leftists like to say like bread and circuses, right? Um but they're occupied. And when people are occupied, might be overreading it a bit, but it's more like there's a world of super poor, impoverished people right now. If that's what you're getting from this, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm getting the opposite, right? Like he is the fear of the poor rising up is what is keeping him awake at night. Right? That is his concern, that the poor will rise up when their jobs are replaced. Who isn't, though, right? Like, most of us come by our political positions because it affects us directly. Had I grown up in a wealthy family and had houses and shit, I would have a different kind of class consciousness. I would buy into that concept of the meritocracy and think that I am one of those beneficiaries of my hard work. Right? We are products of our environment. So he's not wrong. Because if it doesn't affect him directly, right, then it's someone else's problem. And what does he care? I mean, they, like you said, the Russian czars, they had views. They thought everyone according to their station and that everything was fine and that people knew their place and like that. And then all of a sudden it affected them directly and they got very concerned. So yeah, this is from 8 years ago. The rich folks are aware of robots replacing too many workers. And though wealthy people have a class consciousness, they are also not allies, right? They suffer from their own kind of infighting. It's not necessarily direct like that unless my company buys your company, right? But we could have two completely different kinds of business, and things that I do over here could affect your thing over here. You know? This is the thing about if you raise the wages at like McDonald's, then it has after effects, knock-on effects of raising the wages throughout a variety of different companies. Because why am I going to go and be a roofer for $15, $17, $20 an hour if I can work at McDonald's and not get up on a roof? And if you know about getting up on a roof, it sucks ass. If I can make the same money working at McDonald's, or not even the same, but like a comparable amount of money, right? The boss is still an asshole. The job still sucks, but at least I'm not on a goddamn roof. And people do calculus. And they make decisions based on that kind of shit. So there, like, if enough jobs, and the other knock-on effect is like, if jobs in a particular industry are replaced with automation, then you're going to see, like, fast food is often consumed by people who work manual labor jobs, right? Either on your way to the job, on your way from the job, somebody does a run to feed the crew, this kind of stuff. They hit up the, they hit up the McDonald's, they hit up the Burger King, they hit up the Wendy's, the whatever. So all of a sudden, those people aren't going and getting that food anymore. And you're seeing a version of this play out in what's happening down in Florida. And if you're not aware with what's happening down in Florida, on the fuck buckets. down in Florida, um, the the culmination of a variety of different effects is finally being felt, right? With the most recent, like, that if you hire undocumented people, then you as a business, if they find out, can get fined like up to $10,000. And the undocumented people also understand that they are seriously not welcome there right now. And undocumented people form a significant part of our manual labor pool, right? Because, like, once you know how to do some carpentry or some plumbing or some electric, it doesn't matter what the language is, right? The wire doesn't speak Spanish or English. It is wire. You just run it, and then you just tack it down and you make it look good. So it's really easy to get into that kind of work. The vegetables, the food that, that these wonderful people pick for us to help keep our food prices low. Um, it doesn't give a shit what language you speak, right? And a lot of people get trained by the previous, like, generation. But by generation, I mean just the folks who came over last time. You know. So now that you have this deficit of labor, you have businesses that aren't able to complete jobs, and they don't have the people to do the work, and the robots aren't there yet. So it's not a perfect whatever, but the knock-on effects of that. Now, all these businesses that supply the labor that builds houses, whether it's the actual materials to build houses, the the food places that supply food for the workers, on their lunch break, whether it's the gas stations that supply fuel for the vehicles traveling back and forth to the different locations. Like, these are all things that happen. These are complex systems interacting with each other. And we're going to see what happens to Florida now. And I'm sympathetic to the people of Florida. Right? It's not just fuck Florida, because there's good people down there. I know some of them, right? My brother lives down in Florida. And fuck him because he's a libertarian, but I still don't want him, to have his economy collapse around him. Because I am empathetic, even if he is not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in Florida. Anyways. All right. Let's get caught up with the AI news. Do do do. Hit me, Mr. Wolf.
So this week was one of those weeks in AI where it was just announcement after announcement after announcement, and we've got a lot to cover in this one. Google had their annual I/O event where they make all of their big announcements about all the cool stuff that they're rolling out, and here's a super quick recap from The Verge.
AI, generative AI, generative AI, generative AI, AI. It uses AI to bring AI.
And that pretty much sums up what they talked about at the event. But besides the Google event, there was still a ton of other AI announcements, and I'm gonna break them all down for you, including the stuff that I found the most interesting from the Google event. So technically, this one rolled out last week on Friday, but because I record these videos on Thursday, it didn't make last week's video. But on Friday of last week, OpenAI rolled out their new text-to-3D model called Shape E. And as of right now, there's a Hugging Face space available where you can play around with it yourself. I'll make sure the link is below in the description, but you can come to the Hugging Face page, type in a prompt, and it'll make a 3D image of whatever you prompt.
When you do 3D printing, you can create your own 3D objects in like Blender and then convert them to the proper file in order to make a 3D 3D object out of them. So having a text to 3D image is like just a matter of translation away from having an idea and being able to manufacture that, via a 3D printer, whether it's the one you own or there's services, there's makers. One of the 3D object libraries that I frequent, you can order just the STL file and print it yourself, or you can have one of their people put it together. And somewhere around here, I've got the tiny little D&D dice. They're like, they're so small. But yeah, this is where we're at. You're going to say words and get bacon.
Prompt it with. So I can type a rainbow wolf, and I get something that kind of sort of looks like a rainbow wolf. I can click this download button, and it downloads it as a GLB file, which I believe I can open in something like Blender. Some other examples: a spaceship, a green boot, and a chair that looks like an avocado. They also have image to 3D, where you can upload an image and it'll try to make it into a 3D image. Their example here is this little corgi image. I tried uploading my own images, and none of them looked anywhere near like the image I uploaded, so I don't know how to get this to work, but you can play around with it. It's free over on Hugging Face right now. It's not the most amazing 3D assets I've ever seen, but it's the best looking text to 3D we've seen so far. All right, now moving into this week, we started off the week with Warren Buffett comparing AI to the creation of the atom bomb, and Geoffrey Hinton saying that the threat of AI is more urgent to humanity than climate change. But I don't want to get all doom and gloom in this video. I want to talk about some of the really cool and fun advancements that happen in AI. So let's.
And just to speak on that really quickly, it's more urgent, right? Like, climate change is coming, but it's going to be like a number of decades, 100, 200 years, this kind of thing, like longer time frames. The AI stuff is going to happen, could potentially happen much faster, right? Like, there are people who are talking about 2029 and 2049. These are very close dates of great deals of change. And then when you have the issue that we haven't worked out what we're going to do with all the displaced workers, it is a much more urgent problem that will be compounded upon by climate change as that continues to escalate. What up, dude? Mr. 0 Hour Hero. Welcome in. I'll give you a little shout out. I don't have many people in today. Do-do-do. What are you, like a variety streamer, more of a news streamer, would you say? But yeah, I think I don't know how long you've been doing it, but I think you've got, a fairly solid stream, and your takes are good. So, now it's just a matter of putting in the work and hoping to luck out.
Let's just move right along. Also on Monday, we got this demo from Loveless Studio where they show off their tool to
Stream one stream a week on Sundays, bit of news, mostly organizing labor, urban gardening, and where that all intersects. And that's what it is. Like you have to figure out what you want to do and do that well. I think serves the majority. There are some people who can do a variety of different things, right? And then but for the majority of us, I think we are best served by dialing in on something definitive. Like mine is the AI. It's like I understand it, I could talk about it. And when I started doing it, no one was talking about it, and now everyone is talking about it. Yeah. No, and what's nice, especially if you do like news where you want to comment on it, you just take the thoughts in your head and you express them out there, and it makes it easier for you to talk. Or if you're reading an article, then it gets you used to talking to no one, right? Like I'm talking to you, but you're not here, which is a different kind of meta. This is your fourth go. Right on. Cool. I appreciate your enthusiasm.
To create text to metaverse, essentially. We could see that this was an alien snowy world that they created.
It's tough. It is tough. Like there are some days when I don't want to do it, and then like I don't guilt myself doing it, and if I'm absolutely certain I don't want to stream, then I don't stream. And I try to be as open and honest because I'm a human being dealing in human being shit. But generally speaking, I try to be here on the 3 days a week that I plan to. And like that. And I really enjoy talking to people. I love a good conversation.
Lost City of Atlantis. This is what it created. Got procedural terrain generation.
Hold up.
Move right along. Also on Monday, we got this demo from Loveless Studio where they show off their tool to create text to metaverse, essentially. We could see that this was an alien snowy world that they created. Great Lost City of Atlantis. This is what it created. Got procedural terrain generation, dynamic landscapes, dynamic geologies, dynamic lighting, dynamic post-processing, all sorts of cool features that takes us one step closer to being able to just build video games using prompting, and this all works inside of Unreal Engine. We don't know when we're actually going to have access to this. This was just kind of a teaser video of what's to come, but this looks like a really, really fun tool that is going to further democratize game creation. Also on Monday, we got the announcement that Meta was open sourcing their image bind.
And that's good, right? Like, people need to be talking about it, and they need to be taking it seriously. Like, this is one of the things that I keep running into. Was just watching Paradigm earlier today, and some dude like talking about the WGA strike, and again downplaying the AI, right? And not addressing, like, my issue comes up when people like, again, the AI is not a person. There's nothing to like if I attack a person, that person has feelings. That person has a subjective experience. The AI at this point in time, as far as we know, does not, and therefore it's like free range to just go off and blame it for all the ills, and then they stop, right? As opposed to looking at the deeper issues that lie beyond this thought process. You're like, I see it with Philly DeFranco, I see it with other people where they get so far and then for whatever reason they can't take it to that next step, and that, you know, you don't hate Mondays, you hate capitalism. What do we got? Two minds of AI DMs. On one hand, it can factually run a whole campaign. On the other side, it can't capture the human experience reaction side at the moment. I mean, I get that. But at the same token, like, if I pick up my controller, because I do props, if I pick up my controller and get together with 4 other people, 5 other people, and play a video game together, and the video game is driven, you know, by the AI within the video game, this is an experience that a lot of people do already to greater and less extent all the time. I've also played, like, there's, if you're aware of the Pathfinder game, which you probably are, there is a version of the Pathfinder game, which is a board game, you know? Right, but what I'm saying is that, first off, they are just starting to appear, which means this is the worst they'll ever be. The other thing is that, like, there are metaphors already in existence of multiplayer video gaming, multiplayer board games that are driven by the board game, you know? These things already exist, and the lessons that are already learned from those two places will be adapted for the AI. And once the interface reaches such a point, then, you know, you will have, you know, potentially a very enjoyable experience, right? Like, however much you want to put it into, you know, it depends on how much value you place on humans, right? Like, and whatever magical thing that humans are that the AI isn't. I find a tremendous advantage to an AI DM is that I am usually the DM. You know what I mean? So I've got to do all the heavy lifting. Not only do I have to create the campaign, but I have to make it enjoyable. I have to do all these things. And while sometimes I very much enjoy that, sometimes it's just annoying as shit, and I want to go along with the game. I want to play. I don't want to run the thing. Right? And especially if you knew my gaggle of idiots, they, like, cyberpunk adventure that we did, and they shot one of the main characters off jump, like in the opening scene. They killed one of the main characters. And I could have finagled a bunch of shit where that didn't happen, you know, like bulletproof vest or something else like that, but I just went with it, right? Because I can run an ad-lib campaign as much as anything, because then I just take different things from different movies and I put them together to form a cohesive narrative that is just fun. And that's all I care about when I'm DMing is I want the players to have fun, and I prefer people to tell me what they're doing as opposed to roll, like it. Anyways, so my buddy was interviewing the community when he asked me forever DMs. Yeah, and that, like, you can have campaigns that could literally run for the rest of your life. And the other thing is that, like, okay, so it's Friday night, your D&D group is supposed to get together, 2 players aren't available, what do? You have the DM run their characters? Do you make up some new shit? Do you do a little off campaign, anything else like that? The AI, I think, is going to be much more capable of going off the cuff with something like that, where, like, you just, whoever logs in is available, and then the other characters, it's like, you enter the dungeon and the wizard is fucking frozen in the carbonite. Now the rest of the adventure is freeing the wizard from the carbonite, like this kind of stuff, like much more cohesively than human beings, because a human being is going to get upset that not everyone showed up, and you're going to spend the first 20 minutes bitching about how the people don't show up, and that's going to flavor the rest of your evening, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth. Anyways,
research, which has image to audio, audio to image, text to image and audio and image to image, audio to generated image.
What up,
so
Carver?
For example, if we select an image, it will try to make an audio out of one of these images. So if I click on this dog, you can see it generated 2 audios from this dog. So that's AI generated audio from the dog. If I click on this tiger here, this is what it sounds like. Their audio to image is the other way around. So if you give it a sound of birds singing, it generates these images off of that audio, or a train running. Based on that audio, we get these images, text to image and audio. If you give it the text drums, you get this image and this audio. Or this image with this audio. And then we have audio and image to a new image. So we have a dog barking with a picture of a beach. So here's the dog barking.
hi, Ferris.
If I combine the 2, we've got a picture of a dog on a beach. We've got the sound of pouring with this picture of apples, and it generated this picture of apples under a sink. And finally, audio to generated image. This engine sound gives us this picture of a boat or something. Dog barking. We get this picture of a dog. And this is what ImageBind does. And you can read more about this over on Meta's blog at this URL, which will be in the description. And like I mentioned, it is open sourced, so you can actually find it over on Facebook Research's GitHub page and use this code in your own projects if you want. This week, TED also uploaded the TED Talk from Imran Chowdhury here, where he showed off some of his wearable AI augmented reality tech, and it's pretty dang cool.
And we agree. Sorry, this is my wife. I'm gonna have to get this. Hello? Hey.
Okay. Who did I watch go over this? I forget. I watched somebody do a deep dive on this. It was goddamn embarrassing. AI people are absolutely the worst people to talk about AI, because they do the Elon Musk thing where they make a subway and turn it into the Hyperloop, right? Like, it's that kind of shit. It's all sizzle and no steak. They really need to figure their shit out. Like,
Hey, Bethany. How's it going?
Good, are you a TED?
Yeah, I'm on the red circle right now, actually. Let me show you something. Invisible devices should feel so natural to use that you almost forget about their existence.
Les appareils invisibles devraient sembler si naturels à utiliser. Vous oubliez presque leur existence.
You'll note that's me and my voice speaking fluent French using an AI speech model that's part of my own AI. This is not a deep fake. In fact, it's deeply profound. This is my AI giving me the ability to speak any language. Imagine this. You've been in meetings all day.
Do you see how highly edited this thing is? Right? That's why. It is because it was goddamn embarrassing.
And you just want a summary of what you've missed. Catch me up.
Patrick is coming to tomorrow's design meeting. Bethany wants to move next week's dinner, and Oliver is asking about soccer this weekend.
These are emails, calendar invites, and messages, all surfaced up to the top. Picked up one of these chocolates. Used to eat a ton of these when I was a kid. Can I eat this?
A Milky Bar contains cocoa butter. Given your intolerance, you may want to avoid it.
So I can't eat these anymore. I'm gonna eat it anyway.
Enjoy it.
So this is a really, really awesome TED Talk. One of my favorite TED Talks in a long time.
I'm
It's less
sorry
than
to hear
14
that,
minutes,
bro.
and I highly recommend everybody check it out. I'll
I
make sure
do
the link's
not.
in the description.
It's
but what
terrible.
I can say about this is that AI and wearable technology is going to get really, really interesting. And this
Yes.
TED Talk with actual working technology shows sort of where things might be heading. This week,
Yes.
IBM also announced that they're going much deeper into the AI space with their Watson X AI. They actually partnered up with Hugging Face, so you can experiment with the open source models that are available on Hugging Face. This appears to be their own version of like a GPT-4 or Palm 2, like what Google has, and they're expecting availability for Watson X in July. So as more access for this one rolls out, we'll probably be talking about this one a little bit more in the future. The interesting thing about something like this Watson X is it's starting to feel a little late in the game. If everybody's already starting to build out apps on top of OpenAI or starting to build out apps on top of Google's new Palm 2, by July, it almost feels like most businesses will already have sort of picked their platform of choice to build on top of. It'll just be interesting to see how it plays out and what IBM can bring to the table that's actually unique. It was also announced this week that Wendy's is going to test AI chatbots that take your drive-through order, and it appears to be built on top of Google's Palm 2 technology. When McDonald's tested it out, it didn't go so well.
Can I please have vanilla ice cream?
Can I get you anything else?
No caramel.
Would you like anything else?
No cream packet. No. I just want a large water and a cup of ice cream. Not a ketchup packet. Oh my god. I literally can't. Where did the butter come from? I would just like a large water and a cup of ice cream.
There's no saving this. We need to just go and tell them.
McDonald's, I'm done.
For the sundae.
Oh.
Or hot butter.
None. Plain. Zero. Zeta. Nothing. Just vanilla ice cream.
For the sundae.
Oh my god. I'm done. I'm done. We're done. Jesus.
So yeah, hopefully Wendy's takes
I mean, yeah, right? There's a bunch of technological technological hurdles that you have to overcome to execute this. So I'm interested to see what they come up with, but like also that was kind of embarrassing, right?
take on the automated ordering bot fares a little bit better than McDonald's. Airtable also announced that they're adding AI functionality into their platform, which kind of felt inevitable. I'm pretty sure everybody saw this coming anyway. It looks to do the same kinds of things that you might get out of something like Notion's AI. Airtable AI will be an optional paid feature with details on pricing and availability coming soon. Also this week, Hugging Face announced Transformer Agents. You can control 100,000 1,000 plus Hugging Face models by talking to transformers and diffusers. And it's going to be fully multimodal, meaning you can use text, images, video, audio, docs, etc. In their Twitter thread, they say you can create an agent using large language models like Open Assistant, StarCoder, and OpenAI, and start talking to transformers and diffusers. It responds to complex queries and offers a chat mode. Create images using your words, have the agent read the summary of websites out loud, read through a PDF. It comes with built-in tools like speech to text and text to speech, text classification, summarization, translation, image generation, transformations, captioning, segmentation, upscaling, text to video. Now, this is the part that I found really, really interesting here. So designing a tool and pushing it to the hub can be done in a few lines of code. The toolkit of the agent serves as a base. Extend it with your tools or with other community contributed tools. So what this means to me is that you can use all of the tool sets available inside of Hugging Face to build a brand new tool. Once you build that new tool that does whatever you make it do, you can then add that tool to Hugging Face's set of tools, and now that tool becomes available for others to use and iterate off of, and becomes a new tool in the tool set that developers can then use to build off of. So the more these transformer agents get used to build tools, the more tools people have available to build new tools. So with each new tool built inside of this, it just improves and improves and improves, giving people the ability to continually make better tools. In the last few weeks, we also talked a
Yeah, exactly that. And also, like, this is why I don't think people are appreciating enough. There's so much that people don't appreciate enough, but how quickly things are going to go. Right? Like, one, I think people's timescales are fucked. Like, there's a meme that, like, you know, when I think of phones from 10 years ago, and it's like the Nokia joint, you know, and actual phones from 10 years ago, and it's like smartphones from 10 years ago. Like, technology is moving so quickly that I don't think that people are properly processing how quickly it's going, and it's going to throw. It makes it seem like things are just appearing out of nowhere rather than being the sum of the previous events. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you make stuff open source like this, it just, people are going to do more of it, right? Like, okay, I need to do this thing, and here's some open source code, and it almost does the thing I want, but if I just make a couple of changes, or if I add on this other piece, now it does what I want. And then I put it back out there, and then other people will go, oh, that is exactly what I was looking for, and I couldn't figure out how to do the thing, and now that I have this, it allows me to put these two other things together, and now this causes a chain of events to happen, and now I put that out there, and then so on and so on and so on. Again, like, from my point of view, if you want to overthrow, I think you came in after the beginning. But if you want to overthrow capitalism, you have three broad options, right? And I think that these are fair. One, you invest in a bunch of training, get a bunch of weapons, and do it Russian and French style, right? Two, you grassroots the shit out of it, and you spend the next period of time gradually, incrementally reversing these things that have happened gradually and incrementally, and then eventually you might be able to get to some other point. Okay? And then 3, you need some kind of major disruption to the status quo. I think that covers pretty much all possible ways to get to a post-capitalist society. Whatever that looks like. There are other non-post-capitalist. The third one is a major disruption. I got you. A major disruption. And that's what I think AI can be, right? And by major disruption, I don't mean it in the tech bro sense of we're disrupting and doing it. I mean it disrupts the status quo in an irreversible way, right? Like there are events that have happened in history, like various English uprisings, okay? Sticking to my field of knowledge and my, heritage, there are a variety of English uprisings that happened after some major disruption that was irreversible that disrupted the status quo. Whether it be like the Black Plague or what have you, AI could put enough people out of work that the powers that be are forced to either figure out a way. What up, Dangus? Yeah, just they can get their own word. If AI puts enough people out of work, and it seems likely that it would, because I don't understand how you could regulate it to not do that. Then you are going to end up with a situation where you either have to take care of those people in some fashion to prevent everything from going to hot dog shit real fast, or you let it go to hot dog shit real fast. In which case, we're going back to, the first thing where people, now you're not waiting for the training and doing it with any kind of planning or anything else. You're just off the jump, and it's going to be like a mess. And then whoever is left standing at the end will be in control of things. And my preferred outcome is that the AI disrupts things, and that them that has what they have wants to not get the bagel cutter, so they make good decisions that benefit everyone, to an extent. This is my preferred outcome based on the field as I understand it. Because this stuff can't last, and this AI is going to change things.
A lot about AI generated music, and a lot of that music was ending up on Spotify.
What up,
well,
Lobster?
apparently Spotify has flushed all of that music off the platform, with Spotify saying artificial streaming is a long-standing industry-wide issue that Spotify is working to stamp out across our service. So although Spotify is now allowing AI generated playlists, Spotify seems to be very anti-AI generated music. When we identify or are alerted to potential cases of stream manipulation, we mitigate their impacts by taking action that may include the removal of streaming numbers and the withholdings of royalties. This allows us to protect royalty payouts for honest, hardworking artists.
Okay, this is horseshit. Right? Understand that this is horseshit. They are trotting out the honest, hardworking artists to stand in front of them while they do so. And don't get me wrong, I have a Spotify service. I enjoy Spotify service. I would like Spotify service a lot more if it didn't have any moral issues attached to it, but this is where we are. Remove any artist who uses Pro Tools. This allows it, right? Like if you don't play the instrument on demand to replicate the music that appears on the platform, it's off. It's gone. And then it'll be like Neil Young and 6 other people.
Now, anybody that's actually generated AI music will probably be slightly offended by this because it's not as easy to create as most people think. It actually does require some talent and
that's the other thing. Like, people's perception of how you create anything with AI. Yes, you can just, throw it in there. Type in a prompt and take what you get. You can do that. But that's not going to give you something that you want. It's going to give you something that you'll accept. You can spend some time using it like any other tool and come out with a thing that's much closer to what you want, right? What you envision, in the same way that the working with any tool and putting the time and effort in, you're going to get better results. This exact situation, the last 20% of a product from AI is really tweaking it. Yeah, like I iterated, I don't know how many of these chimpanzee and space helmet kind of pictures, because I was just, I'm looking for those little tweaks. And admittedly, if I knew more about how to work with, what have you, Photoshop or any of these things and the drawing programs and that shit, even the ones that I got, then I could probably like go the last mile myself, tweak it manually and like that. Yeah, no, it's, and like you guys, you've seen my friggin' some of my, I don't have it open. My prompts. Like I do, I put a lot of effort into the prompts. And maybe that doesn't mean anything to you. Maybe it's all the same, like, well, it's not real art because a human didn't make it, in spite of the fact that the AI does absolutely nothing until I do something with it. But whatever, like, you do you. I don't care. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
and some skill and quite a bit of time to put into it to create something really good still. But Spotify, at least for the moment, seems to be drawing a line in the sand against people making AI generated music, at least with the voices of existing artists. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because this feels like a very gray area to me. Like, what if I had a voice that sounded exactly like Kanye's and I sang in a way that sounded like Kanye, but I'm not Kanye, but I did actually sing it? Does that mean that my song would get booted off of Spotify because it sounds too much like his voice? Just because a voice sounds like Kanye but wasn't actually generated by Kanye, does that make it Kanye's voice? I don't know. It was definitely trained on his voice's data, so there is that element to it. But in the future, I don't think we're going to be able to differentiate what was generated on somebody else's data versus somebody that just sounds like somebody else. And so it's going to get real slippery, and I'm not really making a lot of AI music myself, so I don't really have a dog in this fight. I just think.
And the other thing, like there is a pattern when someone sings. It's all information, right? There is pitch and tone and timbre and vibrato and a bunch of other Italian words, and people already manipulate a bunch of shit to make people sound better, or take the best part of particular takes and merge them together to make the final song and any of that kind of stuff. If I could have that data and know what a great singer sounds like, whatever Because again, great singer is subjective, right? Like there are people who I'm a fan of the Tragically Hip. Gord has a quality that is a little nasal. It's a little Canadian. It's, you know, it's got a bunch of things that bugs the shit out of other people. So it's entirely subjective. But if I could find the thing that, like, oh no, they are a great singer. Okay, well this is what that data looks like. So if I did that and then I just, you know, I lowered it, you know, in pitch to whatever, and I made it, you know, a masculine as feminine, and like where I have the data, but I didn't use the artist, right? Then I could make a unique, original voice to sing my AI songs. Remember when all this started and it was just graphic artists, and the perpetual argument was, is this different from a digital art student copying the masters? Yeah, no, by all means, you should check out all my previous episodes are saved as either VODs or highlights, and you can go and you can check it out. And I've approached that conversation from multiple angles. I've had people on this show to express their opinion, artists and non-artists, and like Levelhead was on here to talk about journalism, and speaking with Greg, the peer review about biology, and Corey Campbell about biochemistry. Like, I am approaching this from all the angles that it's possible so that people can have an understanding of what's going on. And I have artists who are like, nah, I don't really give a fuck. And I have artists who are like, we're going to riot in the streets. And then my favorite is my friend Zillow, who's like, you know, we taught hammers how to suffer. So.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Speaking of AI generated music, with all of Google's big announcements at Google I/O this year, this is one that flew under the radar because it didn't get announced at their event. But they just opened up their Music LM model where you can generate AI music. Now, it doesn't generate vocals, but if I go to the AI test kitchen, I can actually play with this right now and generate some music with it. You can see it gives us some examples, songs that would play in a poolside party with a light summer vibe. I can see what this sounds like. And this is totally AI generated. A pop punk anthem from the early 2000s.
It's not great. I can hear a bunch of dissonance that I do not like, but again, like we always say here, this is the worst that it will ever be. It will only improve from here.
I can actually download the song right here, but I'm very unclear at the moment whether or not you can actually use this music commercially or not. My guess is that you probably still can't, but I'm not sure. It doesn't specifically say anywhere that I can find. Even in their terms of service, there's nothing about how we can use this or if we can use it commercially. All right, so now we're getting into the meat of what happened this week, and that is Google's I/O event, where they just had announcement after announcement after announcement about all of the AI stuff they're doing. Now, I did make a sort of TLDR version of the entire Google I/O event. The entire event was almost 4 hours long, and I condensed all the stuff that I found interesting down to about 15 minutes. You can find that over at my Twitter. I'll link to this exact Twitter post in the description below if you want to watch the 15-minute recap that I created. Let's go over some of the quick highlights here. So they started by showing an example of how it can help you in email, where somebody got an email about a flight that was canceled. They gave it a prompt to ask for a full refund for this canceled flight. The AI wrote a short email. They asked the AI to elaborate.
Okay. How many times have you had to argue with people about service, money, whatever? Tell me you wouldn't prefer to say, AI, get my fucking money back, and let it just go off.
elaborate, and then it wrote a more detailed email asking for a refund for the flight. Now, while I think it's really cool that this is going to be built directly into email, it's nothing really new, right? We've been able to do this with ChatGPT. There's probably 100 Chrome extensions that do this for us right now. It doesn't feel like anything super novel or exciting yet. It just kind of saves us one step of having to use a third-party tool, and instead we are going to have it just built straight into Gmail. They also announced that Google Photos is going to have what they call Magic Editor. They rebranded their Magic Eraser to Magic Editor. It can do stuff like...
See, Microsoft, you can rebrand. You don't have to call your search engine Bing. You can just rebrand and relaunch without issue, because nobody cares about Bing. Nobody.
Erase unwanted items in an image, adjust the brightness, make it look like a more clear day, and then even move things around in the image to get it closer to what you were originally looking to create in the first place.
That's
While I
pretty
think
neat.
it's cool that it's going to be built directly into Google Photos, this isn't super novel technology. This is the type of stuff we've been getting from tools like ClipDrop and Runway ML already. Now, they also announced Palm 2, which is their sort of next generation large language model that tools like Bard are being built on top of. It's much better at coding and can even do things like add comments in Korean. They also talked about fine-tuning Palm 2 and fine-tuning it on medical knowledge in their MedPalm 2, which was quite impressive in the fact that it was the first large language model to reach expert performance when it comes to clinical knowledge. I think it's operating behind the scenes on Bard, so if you have access to Bard, you're kind of seeing Palm 2's capability. They also talked about their next-gen model
It is Price is Right, isn't it?
called Gemini, which will be coming out later, which is trained on even more. I mean, I guess this is kind of like their GPT-5, I suppose. I don't know how to compare it, but this is their next even larger large language model that they're in production on right now. It's still being trained. They talked about how Bard is much better at coding now, trained on all of these programming languages that you see on this.
The IBM have what? I missed what you were referring to with the delay. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, that is capitalism right there, baby. It's like competition. Oh, God damn it.
It's much better at coding and can even do things like add comments in Korean. They also talked about fine-tuning Palm 2 and fine-tuning it on medical knowledge in their MedPalm 2, which was quite impressive in the fact that it was the first large language model to reach expert performance when it...
Watson's not a large language model. That's the difference.
comes to clinical knowledge. I think it's operating behind the scenes on Bard. So if you have access to Bard, you're kind of seeing Palm 2's capability. They also talked about their next gen model called Gemini, which will be coming out later, which is trained on even more. I mean, I guess this is kind of like their GPT-5, I suppose. I don't know how to compare it, but this is their next even larger large language model that they're in production on right now. It's still being trained. They talked about how Bard is much better at coding now, trained on all of these programming languages that you see on the screen. They also announced Bard tools, which is really interesting because if you're familiar with what ChatGPT is doing with ChatGPT plugins, it sounds like that's what they're doing with Bard. Bard will directly connect with tools like TripAdvisor and Wolfram and Redfin and Instacart and Spotify and YouTube and Khan Academy, and a lot of the tools that we've seen are getting plugins on ChatGPT. This is really cool, and I think this is a great feature, but it also feels a little bit like they saw ChatGPT do it, and now they're doing it too. Now, Google may have totally had this idea before ChatGPT. I can't.
And by the same token, like, okay, so why wouldn't you? Like, the entire point behind the AI assistant is to integrate with all your bullshit, right? You know, that if you take it to its logical conclusion, you want the the house from the near future movie, right? Where, it reads your biometrics to unlock the door, and you walk inside and it welcomes you home, and it turns on the lights to the particular thing that you like, right, that kind of stuff. And then it asks you, do you want me to play the music, and what would you like for dinner, and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, that is the integration that people want for whatever given value of that, and why wouldn't Google also do that thing? Cool. That's it. Let me tell you that the majority of my time spent on Twitch is by this little baddie right here. Goes in the right ear, phone's in my little phone pouch, and I wander around and I do my thing. Well, that's the thing, is that you don't have to do it with the bot, right? Especially because the bot will learn your preferences over time, and it will, theoretically even, could do biometrics, and you are, you are deficient in the following vitamins and minerals. How does this sound? And then it will prepare it for you or order it for you from Uber Eats. And it doesn't have an opinion. It's not going to get upset if you choose wrong, right? Design 2 lighter signs, one for me, one for my son. I have all this stuff for them except the faces, which is what I'm printing. I do also need to pick up a micrometer caliper, though, so I can finish designing the back plates. Very cool. If you don't know Kaiputer, if you know Kaiputer, shout out. They're doing some work with an LED sign that they order. You're familiar with Kai. Never mind then. And you know what I'm all about to tell you. But they're doing some work as well.
Can't say for sure, but just the timing of events, it kind of feels like they got the idea from ChatGPT and went, we need to add that to Bard too if we want to compete. Now, one of the other big announcements is that they are partnering with Adobe Firefly inside of Bard. And if you've ever used Bing Chat and had it generate images with their next gen version of DALL-E, then it sounds like Bard is kind of doing the same thing, just with Adobe Firefly. So you can go inside of Bard, for example, and say, generate an image of a unicorn in front of a birthday cake for me. And using Adobe Firefly, it will generate that image for you. Again, it kind of feels a little bit like being one step behind what Microsoft and OpenAI are doing with their current version of Bing Chat. They also announced at their...
And again, this is capitalism, my dude.
Event that Bard is now open to everybody in 180 different countries. It's available in English, Japanese, and Korean. And on the screen right now, you can see all of the countries that it's available in. I'm going to go ahead and scroll slowly so that you can, take a screenshot or pause this video and see where you can get access, but I'm also going to link up to this page in the description so you can check it out for yourself. Now, there are some noticeable omissions from the list. One thing I noticed is Canada still doesn't have access up here, which seemed very surprising to me. And also, I've noticed that a lot of people in places like Sweden and Switzerland don't have access either, which is a little bit surprising. And the only reason I pinpoint those countries in particular is because I have friends in those countries who actually reached out and said, I still don't have access to it. I thought they were unrolling it to all of the countries. Well, they unrolled it to 180 countries, and Canada, Switzerland, and Sweden aren't 3 of them. They also announced Google Duet AI, which is essentially them putting AI in all of their Google Workspace suite of tools. So you'll have AI directly inside of Google Docs, directly inside of Google Sheets, directly inside of Google Slides, and they all kind of tie together with each other. So if you need information on your slides from one of your Google Sheets, It can reference and access what's in your Sheets for your Google Slides. If you need access to something that's in Sheets in one of your documents,
reference what's in my sheet.
they all sort of cross talk to each other. And that's called Google Duet. Here's one of the examples of them using it that I found interesting.
Something like client and pet roster for a dog walking business with rates, and hit create. Sheet sends this input to a fine-tuned model that we've been training with all sorts of Sheet-specific use cases. The model.
And then right here again, like man, so as many of you know, as some of you don't, like I used to create like tumblers, right? Like epoxy coated tumblers with different shit on there, and like doing this kind of stuff is not intuitive. Not that kind of tumbler, jackass. Like the drinking kind. The doing the business plan aspect of stuff is not intuitive for a lot of people, right? Like a bunch of this shit goes right over their head. I had watched in like, you join Facebook groups so that you can talk to people, and there's all sorts of different levels, and because it's Facebook, most people are assholes, right? So it's like, and everyone's got their opinion, and like, you know, you could say, how do I do this, and like get 16 laugh reacts, and it's like, that's not helpful at all, and you're assholes, right? So this aspect of it, I think, is a lot of, what up, Easel Cat? I'm a silversmith, and what comes with the same over my head, because you're an artist, right? Artists don't business. That's why you're artists. That's why we're artists. Because I'm an artist, and like that. And like, I tried to business. The construction company that I was working for, like, my friend owned it, and he wanted me, and part of this I put on him because he would want you to be something or do something, but was very bad at articulating it in a way so that you could understand, because he would want you to figure it out, and other fucking bullshit like that. It's like, you just want to keep me emotionally abusive and a whole bunch of other crap. Fuck that guy. The point is, though, like, the business aspect of it is very challenging. And then you also have to do the stuff, right? The business plan portion pays you $0. It's an investment in future money. The making of the stuff, that's what makes you the money. So that's what you want to do. Plus you enjoy doing it, which is why you're doing it in the first place. All that. Having an AI assistant to help artists out with business, great. Especially because it could figure out, like, you know, similar, because I don't know, to the artists in the crowd, I don't know what to charge people. I hate charging people. I just want to give them the thing. You like it? You have it. But I need the money because I like to eat and I need more supplies. So it's like, it could give you like a range of like, okay, you're making, like, you're a silversmith and make a silver bracelet out of, you know, X amount of dollars worth of material. And then it would give you like some average costs of what other people pay for similar items. And it could do all that for you. And it would be wonderful. Because then you can go, okay, I'm comfortable with this number. That kind of thing. Yeah. No, 100%. It's like, and doing what you love as a side hustle or a job is not all it's cracked up to be. As much you end up hating what you used to love because you need it to make money. Does Etsy marketing? I'm just not smart enough to now interpret the data, so I've learned all that marketing. Yeah. No, and Etsy's a hellhole. Like, I know people like to dog on particular your whatever social media site of choice as this is a hellscape. Fucking Etsy is a hellscape. Like, I have only had good experiences with any of the vendors that I have dealt with, but as a person who created stuff and put it up on Etsy to sell, fuck Etsy. They could eat a whole bag.
Figured out what you might need. The generated table has things like the dog's name, client info, notes, etc. This is a good start for you to tinker with.
They also gave another example of it being used in slides where they generated a whole slide presentation, forgot to create notes for the slides, and then had AI generate all of the speaker notes for them automatically based on the content of the slides. They also showed off what Google's new conversational search is going to look like. It looks very similar to what Bing has planned for their search engine. You can see they asked a question, what's better for a family with kids under 3 and a dog, Bryce Canyon or Arches National Park? It actually...
And that's not a bad way to go about it, right? Like, I just arbitrarily kind of pick numbers that were comfortable for me and then just stuck with them. And then if people wanted to buy more, then we could talk about, like, I might negotiate on price, you know, like, but generally it was like, this is that much money, right? Like, we're not doing a negotiation on that. But kids, like, I sold a lot of, like, little necklace joints and things like that. Some of them, like, I had this great little design where I would take these LEDs, you know, that you could unscrew the end so you could replace the battery. And so that way you never had to throw it away. You could always replace the batteries. And they're the little batteries for, like, the hearing aids that you get at the store. Easy to find. And you would twist it and it would turn the LED on. And then out of epoxy, there was a glow-in-the-dark, like, pendant attached to the LED. And the LED would charge the glow-in-the-dark pendant. You could turn it on, like, you didn't have to wait long for it to get some, but of course, the longer you waited and all that, and then it would glow in the dark, and kids love glow in the dark shit, and I love glow in the dark shit, and it's like, so when the kids are like, oh, we only have this much, I made it work, right? Because the kid being happy is way more important than meeting some arbitrary, goal for whatever. So I don't know if I ever made money doing art or if I ever will, but yeah, exactly.
Actually generated a response with AI, gave some potential follow-up questions, gave some sources, and then below that gave the search results. They also showed off some features for shopping on Google, which will help you compare various products using AI on Google. For example, showing e-bikes in red for 5-mile commutes with hills, and it was able to find stores near their location that had red bikes that were good for working on hills. They also showed off their new Vertex AI, which to me feels very similar to NVIDIA's Foundation platform or Amazon's Bedrock platform, where companies can build their own custom large language models on top of their GPU resources. Now, of all of the things that they showed off, their Project Tailwind was probably the single thing that excited me the most, because what it is basically you create your own internal chatbot based on files that are inside of your Google Drive. So if you have a whole bunch of documents inside of Google Drive, you can essentially query those documents with a chat, and it will use those documents as the sources to answer your questions and then cite the source from your database of documents. It's basically creating a chatbot by embedding the content of your Google Drive for you and then making all of that content of your Google Drive chattable. That to me seems super valuable because you can create folders on your Google Drive for specific topics that you're interested in and add various documents that you find around the web, write your own content in there, save transcripts from interviews and videos and whatever you can imagine in there, and then create your own custom tailored chatbot to query all of those documents that you saved in there. That concept to me is really exciting. So this Project Tailwind is something that out of everything they showed throughout this entire keynote is probably the thing I'm most excited to get my hands on. They also showed off a universal translator where they took a video of somebody speaking, translated that video into a different language, and then the person's mouth and voice actually followed along as they were speaking in that other language. So here's the example.
What many college students don't realize is that knowing when to ask for help.
I fucking told you. I told you. Oh. And I mean, you know, like, what is the issue with, you know, the dub? Like, one of the issues, like, I get something is lost in translation. I'll give you that one, and there's no way you can really compensate for that. But the other thing is how the mouths move different, and like, you know, that kind of thing. You're going to be able to fix that, and like, oh, it's going to be amazing.
And then following through on using helpful resources is actually a hallmark of becoming a productive adult.
Muchos universitarios no comprenden que saber cuándo pedir ayuda y usar recursos útiles es en realidad una clave para convertirse en un adulto productivo.
So that's pretty cool, but they also mentioned during this keynote that they're not going to make that available for everybody because they're too afraid of it being used for deep fakes and things like that. So when the general public will have access to this from Google, who knows? During the event, they also presented a few new phones. They have a new Pixel.
You assholes really kill me. Like, this goes out to all the people who make the deep fakes of, like, porn with women whose faces you don't have their consent to use, and people up to fucking shenanigans that are not in the name of comedy and fun, but are in the name of being an asshole and destabilizing shit. You know, just fuck every single one of you. Just fuck all the way off. You have my eternal derision. No one taught you how to behave.
Pixel folding phone and a Pixel 7a. I wasn't too interested in that. I was more interested in the AI features. You're going to be able to use AI to help you with your text messages, where if you've ever seen that South Park episode where they talked about ChatGPT, this feels straight out of that episode. They're also going to let you use generative AI to generate AI backgrounds, which, I mean, cool. And then they moved on to the developer keynote. So there was two main keynotes during this I.O. event. You had the main Google keynote, and then you had the developer keynote, where they focused a lot more in on the APIs and the various development software that was available for programmers and things like that. They did mention that there's a whole bunch of APIs that developers are going to get access to, and a whole bunch of code helpers, similar to like a Code Whisperer or GitHub Copilot. Google's going to have their own version of that. They also announced their own Android AI development platform and a whole bunch of cool tools for builders. But most of what they talked about in that portion was over my head. They used a lot of coder speak and industry jargon that I couldn't really translate, other than the fact that it was tools to make coding a lot faster and a lot easier if you're going to code with Google's platforms for tools like Android. And finally, they wrapped up the event with something really fun, which was showing off their Space Invaders World Defense augmented reality game, which actually uses Google Earth plus augmented reality technology to add Space Invaders directly into the real world. So you can see this is a Google Maps Street View here, and then they added Space Invaders right over the top in reality, and they call this game Space Invaders World Defense, and this was how they wrapped up the entire Google event. So this is something that I found really cool, really fun. I'm excited to see this play out, but they also talked about how this augmented reality technology is available for developers to develop on, so you can use the Google Maps tools and their augmented reality tools to build games like that yourself. They call it the AI Core Geospatial API, and developers will have access to that API to build similar stuff to this augmented reality Space Invaders game. That's pretty much my recap.
the 7 people who enjoyed, what was that? There was a movie. Pac-Man was in it. And like Adam Sandler? I don't remember. There was some fucking, it's something like that. Like the 7 people who enjoyed that Chris Pratt. The 7 people who enjoyed that movie are who asked for this, and apparently one of them works for Google. But yeah, no, like the idea of like doing some oh, the idea of I think that the ideas of augmented reality kind of games are cool, you know. Like you said, Fortnite on Google Earth, like having the ability to play Fortnite in like your local neighborhood would be kind of fun, right? Like it's a throwback to when you were kids and you would play like Army Guys or whatever, Pixels. Thank you. The Army Guys or whatever, you know, with your friends when you were a kid. It's a throwback to that where you could play in your neighborhood, and you know, issues of doxing or whatever. But like, again, if people could stop being assholes for 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Of everything that they talked about during Google I/O. I do have a 15-minute recap on Twitter. Again, that will be linked below. It really is a super edit of 4 hours down into just 15 minutes. And if you want to know about all of the various AI stuff they talked about, that's the place to go and watch it. All right, so wrapping up the week, Stability AI announced the Stable Animation SDK, meaning that developers can actually build animation tools using Stability AI's animation program. This looks very similar to Deforum plus ControlNet to me. I've talked about that stuff in previous videos, but now this is available for developers to use and create tools that make animations that look like the ones that you're seeing on the screen right now. We can already do this. This is already open source. Stability's version is not open source from what I can tell. They actually charge to use this API in your software, but it looks to be some sort of newer version of like a Deforum technology. Wrapping up the week, Anthropic announced a 100,000 context window for AI. When you're using something
Yes. Do not do that.
like ChatGPT or GPT-3 or GPT-4, and you put a big chunk of text in there, like let's say you're trying to read an online document and it says that you're out of tokens, there's not enough tokens to read this whole thing. That's because GPT-4 only lets you use 8,000 tokens at a time. The higher limit of GPT-4 gives you a 32,000 limit, but most people don't have access to that. I don't have access to that. Well, Anthropic gives us a 100,000 token limit, which gets us roughly 75,000 words. So between your input text and the text that it outputs, you can have a combined 75,000-ish words. In Anthropic's demo video here, they actually upload a 240-page doc and then ask questions of that giant doc and get information back out of it. You couldn't even come close to doing that with GPT-4 right now with their 8,000 token limit, which gets you roughly 6,000 words. Although you can use a lot more words when using Anthropic, it's not yet available.
It's a Molotov cocktail party.
To everybody. You have to request access to get it, and in my opinion, it's not quite as good as the output that you can get from something like GPT-4 right now. If you really want to see the difference between something like GPT-4 and Claude, you can come over to nat.dev/compare, enter a prompt here, and actually see the output that you'd get out of Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's GPT-4 and compare the differences. While Claude is much faster, GPT-4 just seems to be a lot more detailed. And there you have it. There's my wrap up of all of the news that happened this week, and I'm recording this on Thursday, so there might be more news on Friday that I didn't get to in this video, but I'll try to cover it in next week's video if there was. And if you like nerding out about all of
what is it like? There's baked Alaska you set on fire. Anything flambe you set on fire. And then like bananas, some British name kind of. Oh, I look Bananas Foster, good man. I don't know. It could be like a cultural thing. It could be just that people don't want to pay the premium to have their food set on fire at the table. Fucking humans. I got no frames and I am like 2 seconds behind on my monitor, so got you. Yeah, secret passages. Where's my like I know how to survive quicksand, right? That hasn't come up. The Bermuda Triangle, right? I thought that was going to be a bigger issue. The paintings we look at, exactly. Like, where's my secret bookcase that just opens up? Disappointing. All right, let's check in with AI Explained.
Less than 24 hours ago, Google released the Palm 2 technical report. I have read all 92 pages, watched the Palm 2 presentation, read the release notes, and have already tested the model in a dozen ways. But before getting into it all, my 4 main takeaways are these. First, Palm 2 is competitive with GPT-4, and while it is probably less smart overall, it's better in certain ways, and that surprised me. Second, Google is saying very little about the data it used to train the model, or about parameters, or about compute, although we can.
If you can, you absolutely should. Like, come on.
Make educated guesses on each. Third, Gemini was announced to be in training and will likely rival GPT-5 while arriving earlier than GPT-5. As you probably know, Sam Altman said that GPT-5 isn't in training and won't be for a long time. Fourth, while dedicating 20 pages to bias, toxicity, and misgendering, there wasn't a single page on AI impacts more broadly. Google boasted of giving Gemini planning abilities in a move that, surprised as I am to say it, makes OpenAI look like paragons of responsibility. So a lot to get to, but let's look at the first reason that Palm 2 is different from GPT-4. On page 3, they say we designed a more multilingual and diverse pre-training mixture, extending across hundreds of languages and domains like programming, mathematics, etc. So because the text that they trained Palm 2 on is different to the text that OpenAI trained GPT-4 on, it means that those models have different abilities. And I would say Palm 2 is better at translation and linguistics, and in certain other areas which I'll get to shortly. If that's data, what about parameter count? Well, Google never actually say. They only use words like it's significantly smaller than the largest Palm model, which was 540 billion parameters. So sometimes they say significantly, other times dramatically. Despite
this is what I'm screaming, dude. Screaming. No duplication of services, no, imposed scarcity of resources, no. What up, LA? Evening. What? It's got to be like, what are you, 5 hours? So it's like almost midnight for you? Something like that? Welcome, Alex.
Like this, it significantly outperforms Palm on a variety of tasks. So all the references you may have seen to imminent 100 trillion parameter models were bogus. Skipping ahead to page 91 out of 92, in the model summary, they say further details of model size and architecture.
There's so many things I forgot. I'm still fried. Let's see if this works.
Are withheld from.
Shush. We're working on something. Nope. It didn't work. No. Yeah, it's too late. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'll fix it. We'll fix it in post. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
External publication. But earlier on, they did seem to want to give hints about the parameter count inside Palm 2, which OpenAI never did. Here they present the optimal number of parameters given a certain amount of compute flops. Scaling this up to the estimated number of flops used to train Palm 2, that would give an optimal parameter count of between 100 and 200 billion. That is a comparable parameter count to GPT-3 while getting competitive performance with GPT-4. Bard is apparently now powered by Palm 2, and the inference speed is about 10 times faster than GPT-4 for the exact same prompt. And I know there are other factors that influence inference speed, but that
Nah, still broke. Don't care. Moving on.
Would broadly fit with an order of magnitude fewer parameters. This has other implications, of course, and they say that Palm 2 is dramatically smaller, cheaper, and faster to serve. Not only that, Palm 2 itself comes in different sizes, as Sundar Pichai said.
Palm 2 models deliver excellent foundational capabilities across a wide range of sizes. We've affectionately named them Gecko, Otter, Bison, and Unicorn. Gecko is so lightweight that it can work on mobile devices, fast enough for great interactive applications on device, even when offline.
I would expect Gecko to soon be inside the Google Pixel phones. Going back to data, Google cryptically said that their pre-training core
Try set game, and it's either set game 1 word, set game 2 words.
Corpus is composed of a diverse set of sources, documents, books, code, mathematics, and conversational data. I've done a whole video on the data issues that these companies face, but suffice to say, they're not saying anything about
I've
where
only
the
done
data
it
comes
once
from.
myself.
Next, they don't go into detail, but they do say that Palm 2 was trained to increase the context length of a model significantly beyond that of Palm. As of today, you can input around 10,000 characters into Bard, but they end this paragraph with something a bit more interesting. They say, without demonstrating, our results show that it is possible to increase the context length of the model without hurting its performance on generic benchmarks. The bit about not hurting performance is interesting because in this experiment published a few weeks ago about extending the input size in tokens up to around 2 million tokens, the performance did drop off. If Google had found a way to increase the input size in tokens and not affect performance, that would be a breakthrough. On multilingual benchmarks, notice how the performance of Palm 2 in English is not dramatically better than in other languages. In fact, in many other languages, it does better than in English. This is
Is it bothering you that much? Safety not guaranteed. It deeply bothers you. I am nothing if not a font to my people. Hold up. We good now? We happy now?
very different to GPT-4, which was noticeably better in English than in all other languages. As Google hinted earlier, this is likely due to the multilingual text data that Google trained Palm 2 with.
I know I don't make a big deal out of subbing to the channel. It's completely optional, though I appreciate when everyone does and all that good stuff. But like, if you sub to the channel, I do give you like, you know, priority and in a variety of factors. And if you are like someone who, you know, runs in the same circles as I do, then like also that. So just think about it. Think about it. For anybody who's not subbed, you know.
In fact, on page 17, Google admit that the performance of Palm 2 exceeds Google Translate for certain languages. And they show on page 4 that it can pass the mastery exams across a range of languages like Chinese, Japanese, Italian, French, Spanish, German, etc. Look at the difference between Palm 2 and Palm in red. Now, before you rush off and try Bard in all of those languages, I tried that, and apparently you can only use Bard at the moment in the following languages: English, US English, what a pity, and Japanese and Korean. But I was able to test Bard in Korean on a question translated via Google Translate from the MMLU dataset. It got the question right in each of its drafts. In contrast, GPT-4 not only got the question wrong in Korean, when I originally tested it for my Smart GPT video, it got the question wrong in English. In case any of my regular viewers are wondering, I am working very hard on Smart GPT to understand what it's capable of and getting it benchmarked officially. And thank you so much for all the kind offers of help in that regard. I must admit, it was very interesting to see on page 14 a direct comparison between Palm 2 and GPT-4. And Google do admit for the Palm 2 results, they use chain of thought prompting and self-consistency. Reading the self-consistency paper did remind me quite a lot actually of Smart GPT, where it picks the most consistent answer of multiple outputs. So I do wonder if this comparison is totally fair if Palm 2 used this method and GPT-4 didn't. I'll have to talk about these benchmarks more in another video, otherwise this one would be
I mean, like, is it fair? You know, deal, right? Like, the whole point is to put out the best AI, right? So it's something that they can think about for GPT 4.5 or, you know, all the way to 5 or what have you, is we are learning what produces the best results and incorporating it into the new models. It'd be better and well, that's a graphic image.
Be too long. But a quick hint is that Winogrand is about identifying what the pronoun in a sentence refers to. Google also
Yeah, I want to say it was in like 3.0 that Tegmark was talking about it, and it's a contextual test where you have a sentence and you're identifying the pronoun, and you have to contextualize it against the rest of the sentence, and then sometimes like minor alterations with the same context. It's an interesting test. It's a different kind of test than the Turing. It's not that kind of thing, but it's more like I don't know, English accuracy test or something of that nature.
also wade into the emerging abilities debate, saying,
God damn it. All I want to do is watch videos. All I want to do. That's what I thought. It's Winograd, right? No. Yeah, no, it is Winograd. Not Winogrand. I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Human Challenge tests computer programs with answering a specific type of simple, common sense question called the pronoun disambiguation problem. Here's an example of a PDP taken from a children's book. Babar wonders how he can get new clothing. Luckily, a very rich old man who has always been fond of little elephants, Sussy, understands right away that he is longing for a fine suit. As he likes to make people happy, he gives him his wallet. Obviously a children's book. This phrase has 5 pronouns in it, which we've highlighted. Each pronoun could refer to either Babar or the very rich old man. Solving the problem means successfully determining whether each pronoun refers to Babar or to the old man. That's what the Winograd, like, I don't know why it's Wino. It's probably a thing. Like, probably a thing.
That Palm 2 does indeed demonstrate new emerging abilities. They say it does so in things like multi-step arithmetic problems, temporal sequences, and hierarchical reasoning. Of course, I'm going to test all of those and have begun to do so already. And in my early experiments, I'm getting quite an interesting result. Palm 2 gets a lot of questions wrong that GPT-4 gets right, but it can also get questions right that GPT-4 gets wrong. And I must admit, it's really weird to see Palm 2 getting really advanced college-level math questions right that GPT-4 gets wrong, and yet also when I ask it a basic question about prime numbers, it gets it kind of hilariously wrong. Honestly, I'm not certain what's going on there, but I do have my suspicions. Remember though that recent papers have claimed that emergent abilities are a mirage, so Google begs to differ. When Google put Palm 2 up against GPT-4 in high school mathematics problems, it did outperform GPT-4, but again, it was using an advanced prompting strategy, not 100% different from SmartGPT, so I wonder if the comparison is quite fair. What about coding? Well, again, it's really hard to find a direct comparison that's fair between the two models. Overall, I would guess that the specialized coding model of Palm, what they call Palm 2S, is worse than GPT-4. It says its pass-at-1 accuracy, as in pass first time, is 37.6%. Remember the Sparks of AGI paper? Well, that gave GPT-4 as having an 82% zero-shot pass-at-1 accuracy level. However, as I talked about in the Sparks of AGI video, the paper admits that it could be that GPT-4 has seen and memorized some or all of human eval. There is one thing I will give Google credit on, which is that their code now sometimes references where it came from. Here is a brief extract from the Google keynote presentation.
How would I use Python to generate the scholar's move in chess? Okay, here Bard created a script to recreate this chess move in Python. And notice how it also formatted the code nicely, making it easy to read. We've also heard great feedback from developers about how Bard provides code citations. And starting next week, you'll notice something right here. We're making code citations even more precise. If Bard brings in a block of code, just click this annotation and Bard will underline the block and link to the source.
As always, it seems the appendix contained more interesting information sometimes than the main body of the technical report. For example, we get a direct and fair comparison between GPT-4 and Palm 2, or I should say Flan Palm 2. That is the instruction fine-tuned version of Palm 2. Essentially, that's the version where it's been fine-tuned to get better at following a question and answer format. But anyway, the original Palm 2 scored 78.3% and Flan Palm 2 scored 81.2%. That's below the 86.4% of GPT-4. And that's why my broad conclusion is that GPT-4 is a bit smarter than Palm 2. But as I'll be showing over the coming days and weeks, there are genuinely quite a few areas in which Palm 2 is better than GPT-4. What about the Big Bench, which was designed to be particularly tough for language models? I talked a lot about this in my earliest videos. Well, the graph is going to look pretty weird because Palm 2 has improved upon Palm while reducing the number of parameters. So the graph kind of doubles back on itself back up here, up to around 69% according to the technical report. I would say this is quite a major moment in human history. There is now virtually no language task that the average human can do better than Palm 2. Of course, expert humans can do better in individual domains, but the
It just guesses, dude. It just guesses the next word, dude. It's no big deal, dude. It's just a search engine, dude.
Average human is now worse in virtually every domain of language. Here you can see that confirmation of the Big Bench hard results for Flan Palm 2, 69.1%. Interestingly, in the original chart, Palm 2 is even claimed to have higher performance than that at 78.1%. If you remember, the reason we can't compare that to GPT-4 is that in the technical report for GPT-4, they admit that during their contamination check, we discovered that portions of Big Bench were inadvertently mixed into the training set, and we excluded it from our reported results. Before we get to Gemini, Google show off in the latter half of the technical report with examples of linguistic ability, like writing paragraphs in Tajiki and then translating them into Persian. They go on to show examples in Tamil, and they are really making a big point of showing off its multilingual capabilities. At this point, and I'm going to admit this is my personal opinion, Google then strays into dozens of pages.
Hold on a second. Just one sec. I want to send this to Arun. At this point. Appreciate your patience. Yeah, and Arun is like when he gets going, it's funny as fuck too.
Translating them into Persian. They go on to show examples in Tamil, and they are really making a big point of showing off its multilingual capabilities. At this point, and I'm going to admit this is my personal opinion, Google then strays into dozens of pages on bias, toxicity, and gender. Interestingly, some of the people paid to assess these risks were paid only 1.5 cents per judgment. These things do need to be addressed, of course, but it was somewhat shocking to me to see 20 pages of that and not a single page on the broader AI impacts. As many of you may know, I have criticized OpenAI plenty.
Thank you.
Times on this channel, but compare their technical report, which goes into far more detail about what we need to monitor. The closest Google got was showing how their Universal Translator could be used for deepfakes.
Universal Translator is an experimental AI video dubbing service that helps experts translate a speaker's voice while also matching their lip movements. Let me show you how it works with an online college course created in partnership with Arizona State University.
What many college students don't realize is that knowing when to ask for help and then following through on using helpful resources is actually a hallmark of becoming a productive adult.
Muchos universitarios.
This is true, and at the same time, the word productive it just irks the shit out of me because it's associated with capitalist propaganda, and it's just fucking annoying as shit.
No comprenden que saber cuándo pedir ayuda y usar recursos útiles es en realidad una clave para convertirse en un adulto productivo.
It just seems a massive black hole when one of their recent former employees, Jeffrey Hinton, had this to say this week on CNN.
You've spoken out saying that AI could manipulate or possibly figure out a way to kill humans? How could it kill humans?
If it gets to be much smarter than us, it'll be very good at manipulation because it will have learned that from us. And there are very few examples of a more intelligent thing being controlled by a less intelligent thing. And it knows how to program, so it'll figure out ways of getting around restrictions we put on it. It'll figure out ways of manipulating people to do what it wants. It's not clear to me that we can solve this problem. I believe we should put a big effort into thinking about ways to solve the problem. I don't have a solution at present. I just want people to be aware that this is a really serious problem and we need to be thinking about it very hard.
This all seems...
Exactly. 100%, exactly. By the way, I keep talking about how we need to talk about AI safety. This Wednesday, 2 days from now, I'm going to be having mouth surgery. It should be fine. Like the last one was fine, and I was like ready to go in like a day or two, like that. But what I'm thinking of is like playing some like some of the longer form videos, and like I'll sit here and chill and like play some Factorio and type in chat while we're watching the longer form videos. If you guys think that would be worth your time, and you'll tell me based on how many people show up to watch it. But there's so much to get through, and it doesn't, it's like it's not necessarily conducive to normal content. But I don't know, because I still want to stream, and it's important to at the very least get it added to the record.
It was particularly relevant when Google made this announcement about Gemini, their rival to GPT-5.
All this helps set the stage for the inflection point we are at today. We recently brought these two teams together into a single unit, Google DeepMind. Using the computational resources of Google, they have focused on building more capable systems safely and responsibly.
And like the last time that I had it done, it was like I was out in an hour. My appointment is in the morning. I might even like stream during the day, like have an extended stream, an earlier start, and whatnot. We'll see what happens.
This includes our next generation foundation model, Gemini, which is still in training. Gemini was created from the ground up to be multimodal, highly efficient at tool and API integrations, and built to enable future innovations like memory and planning.
That ability to plan may ring a
maybe do a VTuber arc, right?
bell from the GPT-4 technical report, which said this: novel capabilities often emerge in more powerful models. Some that are particularly concerning are the ability to create and act on long-term plans. Remember, Google didn't identify planning as a risk, but as a selling point for Gemini. Next, Google talked about accelerating their progress, which was again directly mentioned in the GPT-4 technical report. It said, one concern of particular importance to OpenAI is the risk of racing dynamics leading to a decline in safety standards, the diffusion of bad norms, and accelerated AI timelines, each of which heightens societal risks associated with AI. We refer to these here as acceleration risk. And make no mistake, Gemini will.
And what causes acceleration risks?
Will be very accelerated from Palm 2. It looks set to use the TPU v5 chip, which was announced back in January of last year. And on page 91 of the Palm 2 technical report, they say,
what was it? Other ML algorithms have been used to evaluate the design space of computer architectural decisions for ML accelerator chips themselves. We've also shown that ML can be used to quickly create chip placements for ASIC designs that are better than layouts generated by human experts and can be generated in a matter of hours instead of weeks. This reduces the fixed engineering cost of chips and lowers the barrier to quickly creating specialized hardware for different applications. We've successfully used this automated placement approach in the design of our upcoming TPU v5 chip. Such exploratory ML approaches have also been applied to materials discovery. In a collaboration between Google Research and Caltech, several ML models combined with a modified inkjet printer and a custom-built microscope were able to rapidly search over hundreds of thousands of possible materials to hone in on 51 previously uncharacterized 3-metal oxide materials with promising properties for applications in areas like battery technology and electrolysis of water. These automated design space exploration approaches can help accelerate many scientific fields, especially when the entire experimental loop of generating the experiment and evaluating the results can all be done in an automated or mostly automated manner. I expect to see this approach applied to good effect in many more areas in the coming years. Do you understand the speed at which we will accelerate the double exponential curve? Do you feel me?
Which was announced back in January of last year.
What? Want to come up? Come up.
On page 91 of the Palm 2 technical report, they say that that model used TPU v4. Now, it should be said that Palm 2 is leading to some impressive medical applications, as I actually first reported on 7 weeks ago without quite realizing it. Here's MedPalm 2.
We believe large language models have the potential to revolutionize healthcare and benefit society. MedPalm is a large language model that we've taken and tuned for the medical domain.
Medical question answering has been a research grand challenge for several decades, but till date the progress has been kind of slow. But then over the course of the last 3 to 4 months, first with MedPalm and MedPalm 2, we have kind of like broken through that barrier.
Unlike previous versions, MedPalm 2 was able to score 85% on the USMLE medical licensing exam.
Yeah, this is immensely exciting because people have been working on medical question answering for over 3 decades. And finally, we are at a stage where we can say with confidence that AI systems can now at least answer USMLE questions as good as experts.
As many of you may know, the CEO of Google, as well as the CEO of Microsoft, and Sam Altman, and the CEO of Anthropic, all went to
We're in safe hands, everybody. We're in safe hands.
The White House to discuss AI risk and opportunity. But given that the main outcome from that seems to be $140 million to establish 7 new AI research institutes, that feels a little slow given all the acceleration that's occurring. Because as Google somewhat soberly conclude their report, we believe that further scaling of both model parameters and dataset size and quality, as well as improvements in the architecture and objective, will continue to yield gains in language understanding and generation. They are not slowing down, and the world hasn't yet caught up. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and have a wonderful day.
Well, it's been a little while since I've made an AI news breakdown video.
We already watched you. Oh yeah. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, like, so this is what I'm looking at. Like, I don't want to watch this entire video because these guys are fucking wankers. But there's good and bad in the opening of this. I think that I haven't watched this one yet, but I like David Shapiro. And this sounds like a fun video. And then, there's a bunch of AI safety videos from Miles of varying lengths. So right now, the plan is to do a stream. I might not talk that much. I'll probably chat with y'all, and we'll watch some of these videos so that it's there in the record with everything else, and y'all are aware of it. And again, it could be a long stream. And you'll know, because if I'm not streaming, I'll tell you. If you're in the Discord. And if you're not in the Discord, then why aren't you in the Discord? There's a whole Discord. It's right there. It says Discord. Before today, I am done. I think we're going to raid Levelhead. I feel like raiding Levelhead. I'm going to go watch Levelhead. And I'll know if he's going to be on for at least an hour. Yeah. Levelhead turns off his raid allowance if he is getting off soon. And if you haven't seen Levelhead, you should absolutely see Levelhead. In the meantime, I appreciate you all. Yeah, thanks for being a great chatter, Lobster. I appreciate you all. I will see you back here on Wednesday, probably. Thank you all again for your tremendous support regarding the fundraising stream. Again, we raised $350 definite and $470 possibly. The $470 was donated over the course while we were doing it. So it's like we might have had some influence there, maybe not. But the point is that money was raised, and that's, like, hopefully good will come quickly for some individual. Again, we're going to be talking with Josie Rose C as soon as we nail down when they are available. In the meantime, drink some water, eat your food, take your meds if you forgot. Chuggy loves you. So do I.